ANZ has announced a major shake-up, cutting 3,500 staff, 1,000 contractors over the next year as leaders and unions now clash over the future of Australia's banking sector. Now also leads to questions about the strength of Australia's business community. For more, I'm joined by Tim Wilson, Shadow Minister for Small Business, Industrial Relations and Employment. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Aaron.
All right, your response to this move by ANZ, is this about the bank or is this a sign that the Australian economy is in trouble?
I think it's a sign that Australian business doesn't know where the economy is heading. At the moment, the government has had a roundtable that wants to talk about the future of the economy. It's basically come out with, frankly, a list of 10 talking points that they could have come up with before the roundtable. There's no clarity, there's no direction, and so in the absence of that, businesses looking and saying, we're going to shed costs. That means jobs, that means security for families. Then so our hearts go out to those people who are going to be impacted by that. Rather than focusing on growth and opportunity where business is confident and wants to invest. So I see it as a direct reflection of government uncertainty flowing through to human outcomes. There
were a lot of businesses that came out of that summit saying exactly that they were concerned that it was a lot of talk, that not much came out of it. There were some big questions about tax perhaps, but for business and the whole concept of productivity, it's been a huge issue. And essentially the bank, that's what they've said, this is about more productivity.
Well, they've said it's about productivity, but productivity ultimately comes down to inputs versus outputs. And banks want to grow. Every business wants to grow and be able to improve their bottom line. If they have purpose for people because they can see avenues for growth and because there's going to be future demand, they'll keep people. The problem is they can't see that. So they're looking at how they're going to hedge their risk and actually shed jobs. And that's the consequence. That's why the direct correlation with government policy is clear. It's why we need an appetite for growth in the economy, but ultimately the government has to lead that. The government can't be the solution to all of that. Business has to realise that. But government is the solution to confidence, and it is the solution to the reform that's going to drive the future basis of economic growth.
Despite all of the bad news we've seen in the economy over the past few years, job numbers have stayed, well, pretty good for the government. Is this a sign that the tide is turning, do you think?
Unfortunately not. If you actually go and look at the statistics, the Australian Industry Group has done an analysis of jobs data, and so the headline data looks like things are stable, but when you actually break it down, 4 out of 5 jobs that have been created in the past 2 years have been from public expenditure, either because we've seen growth in the public service or because of jobs demand that's come from public expenditure, things like the NDIS or other types of services. 1 in 5 has come from private sector jobs growth, which is basically confidence in the future of the Australian economy. That's a disaster. That's ahistorical in terms of the history of the country, where most of the jobs growth has come from the private sector and public sector has followed private sector jobs growth. So it's hiding a reality where Australian jobs are not being created sustainably unless we see debt as our future.
So obviously we've had NDIS jobs and there's been a lot more government jobs there as well. You've been out of Parliament for 3 years, you're back into Parliament now, of course. What has happened for business in that 3 years, do you think, where we keep hearing from small business, medium business, large businesses, there's closures, there's a lot of police signs, there's a lot of, it feels like more government red tape, it feels harder to open or to close a business. What do you think the issues have been?
Well, it has been one, red tape. When we talk to small businesses, what do people talk about? They talk about the rising cost and time of regulation. They can't get things done. They can't access finance because of prudential regulation and restrictions around access capital, labour restrictions and being able to access skilled workers. But of course, if you're in a CBD, particularly the Melbourne CBD where we are now, confidence is just diminished completely. So what people are looking for is that sense of confidence to invest in the future. And in the absence of that, they're just saying it's easier to walk away. We've also got a very aggressive tax office right now that is pursuing every small business for tax debts in the past. A lot of businesses are struggling to finance that, either because they can't access capital or because they haven't been getting the revenue. So it's multi-pronged, but what it's leading to is record insolvencies for small business. That's having a flow on, of course, to private sector jobs growth, or the absence of it, as well as a decline in the number of new jobs that are created. So on every level, the private economy is in recession. It's only public expenditure that's propping up the idea that the economy is holding up.
You make a good point about the ATO, and obviously during COVID the ATO held back from a lot of businesses, expecting them with their PAYG, etc. But it came back pretty quickly, and it happened during the Morrison government term as well. It has ramped up, and we hear from many businesses that they're struggling to pay their current commitments, let alone what they have to pay. Insolvencies are now through the roof, particularly in Victoria as well, and liquidation is high. What do you think the answer is here from the ATO? Because we see that the chief of the ATO last week saying there's $50 billion owed to us from 22,000 companies. We need that money back. We're going to get it back. Will they get it back? And for the sake of Australian small business, should they be pursuing it?
Well, of course, the tax office, if they're owed liabilities, no one's arguing they shouldn't pursue it. But the question for them is it better to get the money working with small business, or is it getting it where they're so aggressive that the small business collapses and then they end up not getting the liability? And I'm always in the work with small business camp, because we need the government revenue, that's not in question. We want small business to survive, I would hope, because when a small business collapses, not only do people lose the pathway to support themselves, they lose the pathway to potentially grow jobs and economic opportunity for the next generation. And it just seems like the balance is off at the moment. We need to get that balance back, and the ATO to be working with small business to be part of growing the future of the Australian economy.
You and I are roughly the same age, and we have known each other a long time.
You look a lot younger.
I will not jump on that, but starting a small business, none of my friends want to anymore. It's become one of those things that people look at me, I've done it, and they ask, why would you bother these days? Go join a large corporation. What's happened to the Australian psyche of starting a small business, and what do you think could fix that? What could change that?
So I think salaries are pretty good in a lot of large corporates these days, and you can live a pretty comfortable and secure life. I always think that that's a false certainty, because as workers at the ANZ have just discovered, there's no guarantees, but we've come off the back of a long period.
There's no certainty anywhere.
There's no certainty anywhere, but we've come off a period where there has been a feeling of false certainty for a long time. But I think in the end, the future of the Australian economy, as it is, I think, going to be globally, is more people pursuing a mixed bag of salaries, side hustles and small business. AI, I think, is going to bring this to the fore. There's going to be a lot of disruption because of artificial intelligence.
Well, on that.
And it's going to create small business opportunities. And so people who are hungry and wanted to go off and do it are going to seize that moment. I think what we need to do is incentivise that. Through tax measures, by making it easier for people to go off and start a small business, not just the simple administrative stuff, but the ongoing maintenance of it, because there should be huge economic opportunities where people might start with a salary for security, but they want to broaden out as much as possible.
Because a lot has changed. Sorry to interrupt you. One of the big things is investment, as you mentioned, completely changed. Interest rates are higher, so people aren't willing to borrow the money to take the risk. And then the second part of that is that AI seems to be telling us where we're going, as opposed to us telling it where we want to go as business. And we're seeing that with large corporations as well. We have seen companies like Commonwealth Bank make announcements of firing people for AI, then reversing that as well. Do you think that big corporations and companies will be sceptical about AI as a result of what the Commonwealth Bank did, or do you think that the train is here, we've got to get on it?
Well, AI is going to be integrated. I mean, it's integrated into my phone, your computer, you've got in front of you right now.
The whole network of ticker.
It's part of the future. No one's contesting that. Skills are not going to be replaced. It's going to be a question. Tasks are going to be replaced, but skills are not going to be replaced. The question is how you utilise it. I see it as, for a lot of corporates, it's going to be a big question about what they take out of their business models. Where I see it as a big boon for is small businesses to step in and say, well, we've got this unique product offering, we can do this, we can do that, and fill that space that they may not want to have as a permanent part of their business anymore. So I see it as a really rich opportunity for small business boom. It's those small businesses that lean into it and take advantage, perhaps like Ticker, because you may end up being, and I'm not seeking to plug the business, but as part of being a key part of their internal communications part of their business, which they may have traditionally outsourced. I don't know. But I see that as the opportunity, and I think it's quite exciting for small businesses if they see the opportunity from AI.
Tim Wilson, Liberal MP, good to have you here at Ticker. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.